Title 10. Foods you should never reheat. All right, let's set the scene, shall we? You've just dragged yourself home after a ridiculously long day. You're beyond hungry, maybe even a little hangry. The microwave gives that familiar, comforting beep, and you're practically drooling, ready to dive headfirst into last night's delicious takeout or that home-cooked meal you painstakingly prepared. But hold on a second. What if that quick, convenient reheat isn't just a shortcut to dinner, but a fast track to a night spent intimately acquainted with your toilet bowl, or heaven forbid, something far worse? It's a sobering thought, but here's the kicker. An alarming 1 in 6 Americans gets food poisoning every single year. And guess what? Some of the absolute worst culprits, the ones silently plotting your gastrointestinal distress, are probably chilling in your fridge right now, just waiting for that innocent zap. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on 10 everyday foods that can actually turn toxic the second you hit start. So, grab a notepad, maybe a pen, because trust me, number 7 is going to surprise almost everyone, and you'll want to remember these crucial tips to keep yourself and your loved ones safe and sound. Let's kick things off with a kitchen staple, rice. Those fluffy, innocent-looking grains are a deceptively dangerous host for a sneaky little bacterium called Bacillus cereus. Now, don't panic. This spore is usually harmless in uncooked rice, and it even survives the initial cooking process. The real trouble starts after cooking. If you leave cooked rice sitting out on the counter, even for just an hour or two, those Bacillus cereus spores wake up, multiply like crazy, and throw a toxin-producing party. And here's the really nasty part. Reheating your rice, no matter how thoroughly, won't destroy those heat-resistant toxins. So you could end up with a nasty bout of reheated rice syndrome. Think vomiting, nausea, and diarrhea, all from seemingly harmless leftovers. The key here isn't the reheating itself, but the way you handle the rice before it gets to the microwave. So, what's the fix for this common culinary conundrum? It's all about speed and temperature control. First, cool leftover rice within 20 minutes of cooking. Don't leave it steaming on the stove top. Spread it out in shallow containers. This helps it cool down rapidly, getting it out of the danger zone. That's between 40 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit or 5 to 60 degrees Celsius, where bacteria love to multiply. Once cool, get it into the fridge. And crucially, only reheat the portion you'll actually eat, and only reheat it once. Make sure it's piping hot, steaming all the way through, to minimize any remaining risk. If you're ever in doubt, just toss it out. It's not worth the risk of a stomach-churning night. Next up on our list of reheating no-nos are potatoes. Now, who doesn't love a good baked potato or some leftover mashed spuds? But these versatile veggies can be a breeding ground for something far more sinister than Bacillus cereus, Clostridium botulinum. This bacteria absolutely adores low-oxygen environments. And guess what creates a perfect low-oxygen haven? Those foil-wrapped baked potatoes you might leave cooling on the counter. The spores can sprout and produce a potent neurotoxin, botulinum toxin, the very same stuff used in Botox, but in a much more dangerous form. And just like with rice, no amount of microwaving will destroy this toxin. Botulism is a severe illness, potentially fatal, and definitely not something you want to mess with. The danger isn't necessarily the potato itself, but the conditions under which it's stored. If you didn't chill those potatoes quickly and correctly, especially after baking them wrapped in foil, it's safer to just toss them. Don't gamble with your health. The safe move here is to remove any foil before storage to allow air circulation. Then, refrigerate them quickly and thoroughly. When you do reheat them, aim for the oven or stovetop to ensure they heat all the way through, leaving no cool spots where unwelcome bacteria might still be lurking. Remember, proper cooling and storage are your best defense against this silent threat. Ah, mushrooms. Earthy, delicious, and a fantastic source of protein. But these fungi are also protein sponges, meaning their structure is quite delicate. Here's where it gets tricky. When you reheat them, especially if they weren't stored perfectly, their cell walls can break down rapidly. This breakdown can release irritating compounds that might trigger some unpleasant surprises like stomach cramps, digestive upset, or even, in sensitive individuals, heart rhythm issues. It's not a common occurrence, but why take the chance? Food safety experts will tell you that the golden rule for mushrooms is to eat them fresh. They're at their peak flavor and nutritional value right after cooking. If you absolutely must store them, keep them cold in the fridge immediately after the first cook. And if you decide to reheat them, do it quickly and make sure they reach a piping hot 70 degrees Celsius, about 158 degrees Fahrenheit. No lukewarm bites, please. That in-between temperature is where any potential issues can really flourish. Think of it this way. Mushrooms are like a delicate guest. Treat them with care, and they'll treat your taste buds well. Mishandle them, and you might regret it. Chicken, our beloved go-to protein, is unfortunately a repeat offender in the world of reheating hazards. It's not that you can't reheat chicken, but you have to be incredibly careful. When you reheat chicken, its protein structure can degrade, often leading to a dry, rubbery, and frankly, unappetizing texture. But beyond the culinary disappointment, there's a serious health risk. Any surface bacteria that might have survived the initial cooking or that contaminated the chicken during cooling and storage can multiply rapidly. The biggest concern here is bacteria like Salmonella and Campylobacter, common culprits in chicken-related food poisoning. If the chicken isn't reheated to the correct internal temperature, these bacteria can thrive, leading to digestive problems or worse. There's even a worst-case scenario where, if reheated at extremely high temperatures, you could potentially create carcinogenic compounds, though this is less common than bacterial growth. To minimize the risks, slice your leftover chicken into smaller pieces before storing. This helps it cool down faster and heat more evenly when you're ready for round 2. Make sure to store it in the fridge within 2 hours of cooking, and this is crucial. Reheat chicken only once. Ideally, use a stovetop or oven method to ensure even heating, making sure every piece reaches an internal temperature of 74 degrees, 165 degrees Celsius, and is steaming throughout. Use a food thermometer to check the thickest part and avoid bones if possible. If you're using a microwave, cover it with a damp paper towel to retain moisture and heat in 30-second intervals, stirring or flipping to ensure no cold spots. If it doesn't reach that safe temperature, you're just inviting trouble. Eggs are a breakfast champion, packed with protein and endlessly versatile. But when it comes to reheating, they're surprisingly temperamental. Whole eggs, especially when nuked in the microwave, can quickly lose moisture and turn into rubbery, sulfurous bombs that are not only unpleasant to eat, but can also upset your gut. Think about that distinct farty smell. That's the sulfur compounds making themselves known. Beyond the texture and aroma, eggs left out at room temperature for too long, like a forgotten scramble or an open breakfast casserole, become prime real estate for bacteria like Salmonella. The key to safe egg reheating is gentleness and thoroughness. If you absolutely must reheat eggs, do it slowly on the stove, stirring often to ensure even heat distribution. Avoid aggressive microwaving, which can lead to uneven heating and those undesirable rubbery textures. And here's a hard and fast rule. Never, ever rebake a breakfast casserole or frittata twice. Each time you cool and reheat, you increase the window for bacterial growth. So, enjoy your eggs fresh, or if you have leftovers, treat them with kid gloves, reheat once, and make sure they're piping hot. Spinach, the leafy green powerhouse, is loaded with healthy nitrates, which are actually beneficial for things like blood pressure. But here's the catch. When you reheat spinach, those natural nitrates can undergo a transformation. They can morph into nitrites and then potentially into nitrosamines, compounds that are concerning because they've been linked to a higher risk of certain cancers. This conversion happens quite rapidly, especially if the spinach isn't cooled properly after its first cook. While modern refrigeration has reduced some of the older concerns about reheating spinach, it's still best to be cautious. To play it safe, try to eat your spinach cold in salads or add it raw to hot soup just before serving, letting the residual heat wilt it. If reheating is absolutely necessary, do it quickly, a flash wilt if you will, and finish it in one go. Don't plan for a second round of reheating that same batch. This is especially important for infants and young children who are more susceptible to the effects of nitrites. It's pretty much the same story with beetroot as it is with spinach. These vibrant, earthy root vegetables are also high in natural nitrates. When you combine that high nitrate content with heat, especially repeated heating or improper cooling, you get a buildup of nitrites. And as we just discussed, nitrites can be problematic, potentially converting into those same nitrosamines that are linked to health risks. While everyone should be mindful, seniors and anyone with low blood pressure should be extra careful with reheated beetroot. The nitrites can affect the body's ability to carry oxygen, which can be particularly sensitive for these groups. The best approach is to refrigerate cooked beets promptly after their initial preparation. Then enjoy them cold in salads or as a side dish. If you absolutely insist on warming them, do it gently, just once, in a saucepan with a splash of water, ensuring they're heated through but not aggressively cooked again. Seafood is a delicate delight, but it's also incredibly perishable. It spoils much quicker than most land meats, and reheating it improperly can unleash a whole host of problems. One major concern is the release of histamines. When fish starts to degrade, even slightly, it can produce histamine, and reheating won't destroy it. Ingesting these histamines can trigger histamine poisoning, leading to unpleasant symptoms like rashes, headaches, flushing, and even vomiting. Nobody wants their kitchen smelling like low tide and their stomach churning, right? The bottom line for seafood is to cook it fresh and eat it fresh. That's when it tastes best and is safest. If you do have leftovers, be incredibly strict. Refrigerate them immediately and eat them cold, perhaps in a salad within a day. Beyond that, it's really best to skip them entirely. The risk of foodborne illness or histamine reactions simply isn't worth it. When in doubt, just remember the old adage. If it smells even slightly off, or if you're questioning its safety, it's time for the trash can. Now, this one might not be a food you reheat on its own, but it's often a crucial component of our cooking. Have you ever been tempted to reuse the same cooking oil for multiple rounds of frying, or even worse, reheat it in the microwave? While it might seem like a way to save a buck, it's not doing your health any favors. Repeated high heat, especially with certain oils, causes fats to break down into harmful compounds like aldehydes. These aldehydes and other breakdown products have been linked to serious health issues, including heart disease. One extra round in the microwave certainly won't destroy these compounds. Once they've formed, they stick around. Different oils have different smoke points, and pushing an oil past its smoke point or repeatedly heating it accelerates this breakdown. To protect your health, use fresh oil for each cook, especially when frying or using high heat. And always be mindful of an oil's smoke point. That's the temperature at which it starts to burn and break down. If your oil is smoking, it's already past its prime and should be discarded. Finally, let's talk about processed meats. Bacon, sausage, deli slices, hot dogs. These convenient foods already contain nitrites and nitrates, which are added as preservatives to prevent bacterial growth and maintain color. The problem arises when you blast them with heat again. Just like with spinach and beetroot, reheating these processed meats can cause those nitrites and nitrates to convert into nitrosamines, the same worrying, potentially carcinogenic compounds we discussed earlier. So, while that leftover bacon might be calling your name, be cautious. When you warm processed meats, do it only once, and do it low and slow. Better yet, embrace their cold versatility. Serve them cold on sandwiches, in salads, or as part of a charcuterie board. You'll avoid the potential formation of harmful compounds and often enjoy a better texture anyway. It's a small change that can make a big difference for your long-term health. So let's quickly run through our list of the 10 foods that demand extra caution when it comes to reheating. Rice, potatoes, mushrooms, chicken, eggs, spinach, beetroot, seafood, oil, and processed meats. Each of these has its own unique set of reheating hazards, from bacterial toxins to chemical transformations and protein degradation. It's really important to understand that most of these problems don't originate with the microwave itself, or even the act of reheating. They almost always start with poor cooling and improper storage. The moment food cools down from its initial cook, it enters the danger zone, where bacteria can multiply rapidly. So, here's your golden rule of thumb, your food safety mantra. 1. Refrigerate promptly. Get those leftovers into the fridge within 2 hours of cooking. If it's a hot day, make that 1 hour. 2. Portion wisely. Only reheat the portion you'll actually eat. Don't reheat the entire batch if you're only having a small serving. 3. Heat thoroughly. Reheat until the food is literally steaming throughout, reaching at least 74 degrees, 165 degrees, say. No lukewarm spots. 4. One and done. Avoid reheating foods more than once. Each cycle increases risk and degrades quality. 5. When in doubt, throw it out. If a food looks, smells, or feels suspicious, don't risk it. Your health is worth more than a few dollars worth of leftovers. Now be honest, which of these foods have you been nuking without truly knowing the risks? Go ahead, drop your confession below in the comments. No judgment here, we've all been there. And if you found these safety hacks helpful, or if you're looking for more ways to live a healthier, smarter life, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. That way, you won't miss our next deep dive into topics that truly matter for your well-being. Look, leftovers are a fantastic way to save money, reduce food waste, and reclaim some precious time in our busy lives. But convenience is never, ever worth a trip to the hospital. By understanding the science behind food safety, by storing smart, reheating right, and by always being willing to toss it out when in doubt, you're taking powerful steps to protect yourself and your loved ones. Stay safe, stay fed, and I'll see you in the next video, armed with more knowledge to empower your everyday choices.